Hello and welcome back to a quiet place among the stars. As you settle into the calm of this evening, allow your thoughts to drift like mist through the air. The noise of the day has softened, and what remains is only stillness, the slow rhythm of your breath, and the gentle pulse of the earth beneath you. Tonight we will wander into a world that rises above the clouds and yet feels deeply rooted within the planet itself. A place where time moves slower, where silence carries weight, and where the air seems to hum with the oldest memory of stone. Here, in the company of the mountains, you are safe to rest. The air feels cool and thin, touched by the scent of pine and snow. Somewhere far away a stream murmurs through rock, and the faint call of wind slides across distant ridges. You can almost feel the change in altitude, the gentle pressure of height that invites each breath to deepen. The ground is steady beneath you, older than memory, patient and unwavering. As the world darkens, the peaks fade into silhouettes and the sky begins to glow with the slow light of early stars. You feel smaller here, but not insignificant, as though the world has made room for you among its quiet folds. The scene unfolds in soft color. Silver light traces the lines of glaciers that have not melted in thousands of years. Valleys bloom with shadow, and the horizon burns gently in hues of amber and violet. Each layer of stone beneath the surface holds a story of fire and collision, of oceans turned to rock and continents that once touched before drifting apart again. Every ridge is a frozen ripple of the planet's heartbeat, a shape sculpted by time and endurance. The mountains stand not as monuments to power but as symbols of patience. They have watched the sky change color for billions of dawns, and they wait now in perfect stillness as the air grows calm around you. You might imagine walking slowly along a path that winds through the foothills. The trail is quiet, only the sound of soft gravel beneath your steps. The evening light drifts across the landscape, catching on wild grasses and the slow spiral of mist that lifts from the valleys. The summit above you glows faintly with snowlight, and for a moment you can sense the vastness of what lies ahead. Each stone underfoot has been shaped by wind and water, each contour carved by centuries of rain. The rhythm of nature is unhurried here. It reminds you that stillness is not the absence of motion, but the purest form of balance. Mountains are not born in a moment. They are the slow art of the Earth's inner fire. Beneath the crust, continents press together at the speed of growing fingernails. But their strength is immense. The pressure bends and folds the surface until flat ground becomes ridge, and ridge becomes peak. The Himalayas began like this, when two continents met and refused to let go. Even now they continue to rise, millimeter by millimeter, their summits touching air too thin for easy breath. Yet within that thin air lies clarity, a transparency of sky that makes every star feel close enough to reach. The same invisible breath that erodes the rock also lifts the dust of ancient oceans into the light. Creation and decay move together here, inseparable, eternal. As you listen, imagine those forces working slowly beneath you. The earth expands and contracts like a sleeping heart. What appears solid is always shifting. Even the tallest mountains bend slightly under their own weight, then rise again as glaciers melt and rivers carve new paths. It is the planet's quiet conversation with gravity and time. Each grain of sand in a river once belonged to a summit. Each summit will one day return to sand. Yet the pattern continues, unbroken. And in that continuity lies a kind of peace. Perhaps this is why mountains have always called to the human spirit. To look upon them is to witness the visible shape of endurance. They remind us that beauty need not rush to exist. Theirs is an elegance of persistence. A patience measured not in years but in ages. Civilizations rise and vanish in the time it takes a single glacier to move down a valley. Yet the stone remains, remembering every sun that has ever risen. In that remembrance there is comfort. The mountains do not demand attention, they simply are. And in their quiet existence, they teach you how to rest. If you close your eyes now, you might feel yourself standing on a high plateau. The air crisp and clean, the sky stretching endlessly above. A golden light settles over the peaks, turning snow into fire and shadow into velvet. You hear the faint whistle of wind weaving through narrow passes and the slow rhythm of your own heartbeat. Everything that has ever moved across this landscape has left a trace, a ripple in the soil. A fragment of sound, a story told in stone. The mountains hold them all without effort. They are the planet's diary, pages written in the language of time. As this journey begins, let each breath draw you deeper into the calm. We will explore how these giants are formed, how they shape weather and life, and how their stories stretch beyond Earth to the farthest planets of the solar system. But before we go there, take a moment to feel the stillness of this place. Let your shoulders drop. Let the rhythm of your breathing slow to match the rhythm of the earth itself. The mountains are patient, and tonight they are willing to share that patience with you. So settle in and listen. The world beneath you is vast but kind. In the next moments, we will trace the hidden patterns of stone, the pulse of creation, and the music of deep time. Allow yourself to drift as the journey unfolds. The peaks are waiting, and the night is long enough to carry every thought into rest. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of dawn where the first light touches the shoulders of the world. The air is cool and clear, and a faint blush of gold spills across distant peaks. You can almost hear the soft crackle of frost melting, the quiet murmur of wind weaving between stones that have watched the sky for centuries. The world feels both new and ancient in this thin morning light. Every breath carries a taste of altitude, crisp and sweet like snowmelt. In this silence, a question begins to form, not with words but as a feeling. How do these mountains come to be? And what stories sleep inside their stone? Deep beneath the surface, the planet is never still. The continents drift like slow rafts upon a hidden ocean of molten rock. They move so quietly that no one could ever notice. Yet their patience is unmatched. When these great slabs of earth meet, they press with a power beyond imagination, bending the crust like fabric until it folds and thickens. From that meeting of strength and endurance, mountains rise. They are born from collision, from pressure turned to beauty, from fire that learned how to rest in the form of stone. This journey through mountains is not only about height, it is about time, about change so slow it can only be felt through imagination. A single ridge can carry millions of years within its curves. The fossils of seashells lie trapped high above the clouds, reminders that even the tallest peaks were once the beds of ancient oceans. When you touch the surface of a rock on a mountain path, you are touching what was once alive, shaped by tides and sunlight long before any human eye could see. As we travel through this story, you will discover how mountains breathe with the planet, shaping winds, gathering clouds, and feeding the rivers that sustain life below. Each summit draws the sky closer, catching moisture that will later fall as rain far from its source. In this way, mountains act as bridges between worlds, the high and the low, the cold and the warm, the silent and the living. Every drop of water that slips from a melting snowcap begins a journey that may end in the sea. Every gust of wind that brushes a peak carries the memory of the stars. The rhythm of a mountain's life is slow, but never motionless, even when they appear silent. Mountains are breathing through erosion and rebirth. Rivers carve them into valleys. Glaciers scrape their faces smooth, and earthquakes lift their edges toward the sky again. The process is endless, a dialogue between stone and time. It is in this rhythm that we begin to sense the heartbeat of the earth. Beneath all the noise of the world, beneath every city and ocean, that pulse continues, deep, steady, patient. You might notice how this understanding feels calming. The realization that the world beneath you is in motion, but in a motion so graceful it soothes rather than unsettles. The mountains remind you that change need not be loud. It can unfold quietly, grain by grain, until transformation feels like rest. Each snowflake that lands on a summit adds its weight to the future, and each breeze that passes carries away a whisper of the past. Over ages these moments accumulate, shaping landscapes more magnificent than any instant of eruption. If you could hear the language of stone, it would not be a voice of thunder. It would be the slow exhale of glaciers melting, the low hum of wind rubbing against rock, the sigh of sediment sliding into the valley below. This is the sound of time itself, and it has no need to hurry. Mountains teach patience by existing. They remind us that stillness is not the absence of movement, but movement so balanced it becomes harmony. Now imagine climbing higher, the air growing thinner, the light turning sharper and more transparent. The line between earth and sky begins to blur. Far below, clouds drift like rivers of light. Around you, the world stretches into silence. From this height, you can see the curvature of the horizon, the faint shimmer of distant seas, the layered folds of ridges fading into blue haze. It feels as though the entire planet is breathing with you. Slow and rhythmic, every mountain peak that pierces the clouds is part of that shared breath. Mountains have shaped human imagination since the beginning. To early travelers, they were both barrier and sanctuary. To poets and scientists, they were symbols of truth and permanence. Every culture has looked upon them and found meaning. Some saw homes of gods. Others saw places where heaven and earth touched. But beyond myth and worship lies something universal: the way mountains quiet the human heart. Their vastness invites perspective, and their silence absorbs thought until only peace remains. As this journey continues, you will see how mountains influence everything around them. They control the paths of winds and rains. They hold the snow that becomes rivers, and they shape the ecosystems that bloom in their shadow. They even affect the tilt of the planet over time, adjusting the balance of the Earth's axis. Each stone, each ridge, each flake of snow participates in the grand choreography of the planet's evolution. What appears eternal is, in truth, constantly rewriting itself. And yet, there is beauty in that impermanence. The peaks that crumble feed the valleys that bloom. The rivers that erode the mountains carry their essence to the sea, where new life will rise. In this endless exchange, nothing is ever lost. The mountain becomes the river becomes the ocean, and the ocean becomes the rain that will one day fall upon the mountain again. It is the oldest circle of all: creation, transformation, renewal. Let this thought rest gently in your mind. The mountains you see tonight are both ancient and newborn. They are the planet's memory made visible. The balance between fire and wind, between endurance and change. As you breathe, imagine that same rhythm echoing through your body, a quiet alignment between your heartbeat and the slow pulse of stone. Tonight you are part of that balance, resting in harmony with the timeless patience of the earth. When you are ready, We will begin to uncover the science that sleeps within these peaks. We will trace how they rise, how they erode, and how they touch everything from the weather to the stars. The path ahead will be calm and bright, unfolding like dawn on a silent ridge. For now, breathe in the stillness. The journey through the mountains has only just begun. Mountains are among the most patient creations on Earth. They form slowly, silently, through the quiet labor of pressure and heat beneath the crust. Deep below your feet, massive slabs of rock called tectonic plates drift upon a sea of molten mantle. When these plates meet, they fold and lift the crust, compressing what was once flat ground into ridges that climb toward the sky. Every summit you see is a monument to that meeting. Continents that pressed together for millions of years until the Earth itself began to buckle and breathe upward. Some mountains rise faster than they erode away. In many regions, the upward thrust of tectonic motion is stronger than the slow carving of rain and ice. The result is a world that continues to lift even as it crumbles. The Himalayas, for example, are still climbing a few millimeters each year as the Indian plate continues to slide beneath Asia. At the same time, glaciers and rivers wear them down, balancing creation and destruction in an endless conversation of motion. To look at those peaks is to see time in tension, the upward push of the planet meeting the downward pull of gravity and water. Other ranges, such as the Andes, tell a story written in both fire and sea. Long before they towered above South America, their rocks rested at the bottom of an ancient ocean. Sediments of sand, coral, and shell hardened into limestone and shale. Then, as the oceanic Nazca Plate slipped beneath the continent, the old seabed rose, folded, and broke into the jagged ridges we see today. Fossil shells still sleep high among those peaks, proof that the tallest places on Earth were once underwater. The Andes continue to rise, their base trembling with deep earthquakes and glowing volcanoes. Reminders that the boundary between land and sea is always alive. The Appalachians tell the opposite tale, a story of youth lost to time. These gentle, forested hills of eastern North America were once as tall as the Himalayas. Hundreds of millions of years ago, when ancient continents collided, their peaks pierced the skies with icy crowns. Over eons, rain, frost, and wind wore them down. What remains today are the softened bones of an ancient giant, rounded and calm, their fierce energy long ago given back to the earth. Within their roots lie rocks that have been baked and bent by pressures beyond imagination. They are mountains at peace with time, a living reminder that even grandeur eventually finds rest. In contrast, the Alps of Europe are youthful in geological terms. Formed only about 40 million years ago, when the African plate pushed northward into Europe, the Alps still carry the sharpness of their birth. Their cliffs are steep, their valleys deep, and glaciers still carve new paths through their limestone hearts. Landslides and avalanches are common because the land is still finding equilibrium. Within the folds of the rock lie fossils of the Tethys Ocean that once covered this region. The Alps are the restless adolescence of mountains, vibrant, dramatic, and alive with motion. Some mountain ranges are born far from plate boundaries, created by the strange behavior of the Earth's crust itself. The Rocky Mountains in North America rose hundreds of miles from the nearest subduction zone. Around 70 million years ago, an oceanic plate slid beneath the continent at an unusually shallow angle. Transferring force deep inland, the crust buckled in unexpected places, lifting plains into peaks and valleys. This rare event gave rise to the Rockies. a reminder that the laws of geology can bend in quiet, surprising ways. Even today, geologists study the range to understand how such distant forces could shape the heart of a continent. Hidden beneath Antarctica lies a mountain range that has never felt the sky. The Gamburtsev Mountains, discovered through radar mapping, stretch across the frozen interior of the continent. Their peaks are as tall as the Alps, yet buried beneath miles of ancient ice. Scientists believe they formed hundreds of millions of years ago during a collision of long-lost continents. For more than 30 million years they have remained hidden, shaping the flow of glaciers and the movement of subglacial rivers. No human eye has ever seen them directly, yet they guide the frozen surface above like the skeleton of a sleeping giant. Even deeper, beneath the ocean, lies the greatest mountain range on Earth, the mid-ocean ridge. It stretches for more than 40,000 miles around the planet, a continuous chain of volcanic peaks hidden under miles of water. Along this ridge, molten rock rises from the mantle, cooling and hardening into new seafloor. The process is constant and eternal. As the plates move apart, new mountains are born in the darkness. Hydrothermal vents release plumes of minerals and heat, nurturing entire ecosystems that live without sunlight. The ridge is a reminder that the most dramatic landscapes are often the least seen. Volcanoes are another way the planet lifts itself toward the sky. Some, like Paracutin in Mexico, can form within a single human lifetime. In 1943, a farmer watched as smoke began to rise from his cornfield. Within days, the ground split open, and fiery rock burst from the soil. By the end of the first year, a cone had grown more than 1,000 feet high. 9 years later, it towered over the land, solidified and silent. To witness such an event is to see mountain building in real time, a glimpse of the planet's restless creativity. Not all volcanoes climb upward. Shield volcanoes, such as those in Hawaii, spread outward instead, building vast gentle slopes of cooled lava. Mauna Loa, for instance, is so broad that from base to summit it measures taller than Mount Everest. Though most of it lies beneath the sea, these volcanoes grow from repeated eruptions that layer new rock over old. Their lava flowing for miles before cooling. They remind us that creation can be quiet, that fire can become form without fury. Each island in the Pacific is a testament to this slow, steady artistry of the Earth. Beyond our world, the same forces continue to sculpt alien landscapes. On Mars, a mountain called Olympus Mons rises more than twice the height of Everest. Its slopes are so wide they curve with the planet's horizon. This colossal volcano grew so large because Mars lacks the drifting tectonic plates that Earth has. Eruptions built upon the same spot for millions of years. Now it stands as a frozen monument to ancient fire, a reminder that the laws of geology are universal. Written in the language of pressure and heat, repeated from planet to planet across the cosmos. Even the lightest, most delicate landscapes can become mountains. In parts of New Guinea, entire ranges are made of fossilized coral. Over ages, reefs rose from shallow seas as tectonic forces lifted them into sunlight. The limestone that forms their cliffs is the compressed memory of countless tiny organisms that once lived and died beneath the waves. Rain and rivers carve that stone into fantastical shapes, towers, arches, and caverns that shimmer in soft white light. These coral mountains prove that life itself can build stone. That biology and geology are partners in the same endless story. Far from the warmth of the tropics, in the frozen worlds of the outer solar system, Mountains are made not of rock but of ice. On Jupiter's moon Europa and Saturn's moon Enceladus, tectonic movement pushes frozen crust into towering ridges of water ice as hard as granite. On Pluto, nitrogen and methane frost form slow glaciers that rise into peaks shining blue beneath a distant sun. These ice mountains move so slowly that they appear still. Yet beneath them, hidden oceans may flow, kept liquid by internal heat. If life exists there, it could sleep within those frozen ranges, proof that even in darkness, the pattern of creation continues. Each of these mountains, whether made of rock, coral, or ice, tells the same story. The universe never stops building. It lifts, folds, freezes, melts, and begins again. The peaks we see are not monuments to permanence but to movement. Even the hardest stone is in transit, shifting grain by grain, guided by forces that work in silence and patience. Mountains are the memory of motion itself, the slow breathing of planets written in form. The life of a mountain continues long after its birth. Once the forces of collision and eruption have lifted the stone, the slower hands of wind, water, and ice begin to sculpt it. Rain slips into cracks, freezing and expanding until entire cliffs fracture and crumble. Rivers born from melting snow grind down valleys, carrying fragments of peaks toward the sea. Glaciers drag their weight across the land like slow rivers of glass, carving deep U-shaped valleys and leaving behind polished rock that gleams in the sunlight. Every mark upon a mountain is a record of change. Every smooth curve a signature of time's unhurried patience. As glaciers move, they become the artists of the earth. Some slide only a few inches each day, while others surge forward faster than a human can walk. Beneath them, meltwater acts as a lubricant, allowing the ice to glide over bedrock. As they advance, they gather stone, dust, and memory. When they retreat, they leave behind lakes and fertile plains. Entire civilizations have risen in the shelter of glacial valleys, nourished by soil ground from mountains. The ice that erodes also preserves, holding ancient air in tiny bubbles and capturing traces of past climates. Scientists who study these frozen layers read the history of the atmosphere the way one might read pages in a diary. The air that surrounds mountains is as dynamic as the rock beneath. When warm, moist air is forced upward along the slopes. It cools and condenses, forming clouds that cling to the peaks. As the air passes over the summit and descends, it warms again, leaving the far side of the range dry. This simple process creates rainforests on one side of a mountain and deserts on the other. The Andes give birth to the lush Amazon basin on their eastern flank while casting the Atacama Desert into shadow on their western side. Mountains are architects of climate, sculpting not only stone but the living sky. At high altitudes, the air grows thin and cold, changing the world for every creature that lives there. Trees twist and shrink beneath relentless wind, their branches bent into shapes that mirror the flow of air. Mosses and lichens cling to bare rock, painting the surface with soft greens and silver grays. Snow gathers in folds and hollows, reflecting sunlight so bright it feels almost alive. Above the treeline, silence reigns. Only the faint rush of wind or the distant call of an eagle breaks the stillness. In this place, life moves carefully, conserving energy as the earth breathes through seasons of ice and thaw. Animals that inhabit these heights are shaped by the thin air. Snow leopards prowl the Himalayas with lungs so large they can draw breath where oxygen is scarce. Yaks graze on sparse grass, their thick coats layered with warmth. Small creatures like pikas and marmots scurry among rocks, storing food for the long, frozen months. Birds such as the bar-headed goose fly higher than any human could climb without aid, crossing the Himalayas on migrations that reach the edge of space. Each adaptation is a quiet miracle of survival, proof that life can find harmony even at the edge of the sky. Mountains also carry forests upon their lower slopes, green mantles that change character with every increase in height. At their base grow tropical or temperate woodlands, rich with rivers and deep soil. Higher up, evergreens take root where winters are longer and the sun is sharper. Above that, alpine meadows bloom briefly each summer with flowers so vivid they seem to glow against the rock. These vertical zones are like stacked worlds, each with its own rhythm of weather, soil, and living things. A journey upward through a mountain's height is a journey through climates that elsewhere would span thousands of miles. The snow that falls upon the highest ridges is more than decoration. It is the planet's reservoir, holding most of the Earth's fresh water in frozen form. When spring returns, the snow melts slowly, feeding rivers that travel far from their icy origins. These rivers sustain cities, forests, and fields. Without mountain snow, much of the world would thirst. Yet the same water that nourishes life can also reshape the mountains themselves. Each droplet that freezes in a crevice widens it a fraction more. Over ages, those droplets carve gullies, then canyons, transforming stone into dust. Water and rock are bound in endless partnership, one wearing down, the other giving shape. The temperature of mountain air changes everything it touches. Because it is thin, heat escapes quickly, and the difference between day and night can be vast. In the light of noon, rock expands and cracks. By midnight it shrinks again. This constant cycle of expansion and contraction breaks even the hardest granite into grains of sand. To walk along a mountain slope is to walk upon fragments of time. Each pebble beneath your feet once belonged to a summit. And one day every summit will become sand that flows into a river and finally to the sea. The colors of mountains tell their stories in quiet language. Rusty red slopes hold iron that has weathered like old metal. Shades of green hint at copper minerals deep within. Pale cliffs of limestone mark the ghosts of ancient seas, while black volcanic rock tells of fire frozen in motion. At sunrise, these colors awaken together, gold on the snowfields, pink along the ridges, blue within the shadows. The mountain is never the same twice. Its palette shifts with every cloud and every breath of wind, a living canvas painted by the planet's own rhythm. When lightning strikes a summit, the energy of the sky meets the solidity of the earth. These peaks attract electricity because they rise closest to the clouds, and the balance between air and stone becomes charged. The flash illuminates valleys for miles, tracing invisible lines of force that bind atmosphere to land. Even this sudden violence is part of the planet's harmony. Minerals in the rock record each strike, leaving magnetic patterns that tell geologists how the Earth's field has changed through the ages. Every bolt of lightning is a fleeting signature written upon the bones of the world. Mountains also echo with sound in strange and beautiful ways. Their valleys act as chambers where a single note can travel for miles. Thunder rolls again and again, softened and reshaped by distance. A call from a human voice returns as a whisper of its own reflection. Early travelers believed these echoes were spirits answering from the cliffs. And in a sense they were right. The shape of the land truly speaks. Each vibration that touches a wall of stone lingers a little before fading, like a memory that refuses to vanish. The thin air of mountain summits holds another wonder, light. With fewer particles to scatter it, sunlight becomes pure and sharp. The sky deepens into shades of blue unseen at lower altitudes, and the stars appear brighter when night falls. At sunrise, the shadow of a single peak can stretch for hundreds of miles. A perfect triangle painted upon mist. The glow at dusk lingers longer than it should, as if reluctant to leave. Light behaves differently here, cleaner and more honest, revealing the textures of rock and snow as though the earth were holding them close for you to see. The human body responds to these heights in intricate ways. Within hours of climbing above the clouds, breathing grows faster as the lungs search for oxygen. The heart beats more strongly, pushing blood through every vessel to capture what little air is available. Over days, the body begins to adapt, creating new red blood cells to carry oxygen more efficiently. Muscles learn to use energy sparingly. People who live in high mountains inherit these changes. Their blood richer, their breathing steady in the thin wind. The mountain reshapes them quietly, turning survival into art. Yet despite the harshness, mountains have always drawn humanity closer. Their silence offers perspective. Their endurance offers comfort. To climb them is not only a physical act but a meditation on scale and humility. When standing upon a summit, the noise of the world below feels distant, replaced by the steady whisper of wind and the hum of your own heartbeat. It is there, in that fragile stillness, that many have felt a profound connection to the planet, to time, and to the quiet mystery of existence itself. Mountains are not simply landforms. They are living processes frozen in motion. They rise, erode, shift, and rise again, shaping the world while teaching patience through their example. Beneath their peaks, the crust continues to move, lifting and bending, while rivers carry their essence toward distant oceans. Above, clouds gather and dissolve, repeating endlessly the cycle of creation. This balance between upward strength and downward surrender is the essence of their beauty. To understand a mountain is to see the world as a single, breathing organism, vast, slow, and full of grace. The influence of mountains extends far beyond their visible borders. When air currents meet a great range, they are forced to rise, cool, and release rain. The result can shift the balance of weather across entire continents. The Himalayas help summon the monsoon rains that feed Asia. The Andes steer the winds that flow over South America, shaping both desert and rainforest. Even small ranges, when seen from the scale of the atmosphere, act like musical notes in the planet's grand symphony, tuning the motion of air that carries warmth and water around the globe. Every mountain breathes into the weather. Every ridge alters the rhythm of the wind. The snow that crowns the peaks is part of this global song. It brightens the planet, reflecting sunlight back into space and cooling the world below. When that snow melts, it feeds rivers that connect distant lives. Cities far from the mountains depend on this gentle exchange. The rhythm of freezing and thawing regulates the pulse of water that sustains forests and fields. In this way, the height of stone determines the health of valleys. The same snow that drifts silently at midnight becomes the stream that nourishes roots hundreds of miles away. Beneath the surface, the weight of mountains bends the Earth's crust. The tallest ranges press down like gentle fingers on soft clay, pushing the lithosphere deeper into the mantle. The crust responds by rising elsewhere, finding balance as if floating upon a hidden sea. When glaciers melt, that weight is lifted and the land rebounds upward. Northern Europe and Canada are still rising slowly from the release of ice that melted thousands of years ago. Even the smallest change in pressure reshapes the ground, triggering subtle quakes, altering sea levels, and adjusting gravity itself. The planet breathes not only through wind and rain but through the slow flexing of its own skin. Gravity, the quiet force that keeps everything grounded, varies slightly wherever mountains stand. Because their mass is so great, they exert a stronger pull on nearby objects. Satellites can sense these differences from space, mapping invisible ripples in the planet's field. Over the Himalayas and the Andes, gravity grows fractionally stronger. Over deep basins, it weakens. Scientists use these faint signatures to study how water and rock move across the Earth, tracking melting glaciers and shifting crust. In this way, even the weight of a mountain becomes a tool for understanding the heartbeat of the planet. Inside those massive stones, another record lies hidden, the memory of magnetism. When molten rock cools, the iron within it aligns with Earth's magnetic field. As the field changes over time, the direction locked into the rock changes too. Geologists can read these frozen compasses to learn where continents once were, how they drifted, and how the planet's poles have wandered. A mountain's magnetic patterns are maps of ancient skies, tracing the slow spin of the world over millions of years. To hold such a rock is to hold a fragment of direction itself, a memory of where north once was when the planet was young. Mountains also influence the tilt and balance of the entire Earth. When new ranges rise, their added mass redistributes the planet's weight over eons. This can alter how the Earth spins, slightly adjusting the angle of its axis. Such shifts have affected climate cycles, lengthened and shortened ice ages, and subtly changed the timing of the seasons. The Himalayas and Andes, by lifting the crust, have helped shape the long rhythm of the planet's climate. The rise of stone can ripple outward through time, changing not only the face of the land but the balance of sunlight itself. The atmosphere that drifts above mountains carries traces of faraway worlds. Winds lift dust from deserts, ash from volcanoes, and pollen from forests, scattering them across peaks and glaciers. Tiny particles from the Sahara have been found resting on the snow of the Alps, while salt from distant oceans settles upon the Himalayas. These invisible travelers darken the ice, speeding its melt, and weave the story of global connection. Each gust of mountain wind carries whispers from thousands of miles away, a reminder that no place on Earth is ever truly alone. Snowflakes formed in high mountain air reveal the intricate geometry of temperature and moisture. At these heights, the crystals grow slowly, their patterns sharpened by cold and clarity. Some take the shape of needles and columns, others of perfect hexagons glinting in sunlight. Each one is unique, born from the invisible dance of humidity and wind. As they fall, they merge into layers of snow that compress into ice, trapping thin films of air between them. Those bubbles are the breath of ancient seasons, preserved for scientists to read centuries later. A single handful of snow can contain the memory of the sky that made it. Over millions of years, mountains rise and erode in cycles that define the planet's geology. A new range may lift from collision, then wear away until it becomes a plain, only to be reborn as another range elsewhere. The dust of the Himalayas drifts across oceans and settles in seafloors that may one day rise again. The crust recycles itself endlessly, folding and unfolding like the lungs of a living body. This is the deep time of the Earth, a rhythm so vast that even destruction is only preparation for renewal. Every pebble in a stream, Every grain of sand on a beach is the remains of a mountain waiting to rise again. Within mountain caves, the planet continues its secret work. Water laced with minerals seeps through cracks, dripping in silence to form stalactites and stalagmites. Over millennia, these delicate structures grow into forests of stone beneath the surface. In places like Mexico's Cave of the Crystals, translucent pillars of gypsum stretch taller than houses, shining with ghostly light. Their slow growth depends on perfect stillness and balance, a world where change happens at the pace of thought. The caves beneath mountains are their lungs, exchanging air and water with the world above, breathing in darkness while the peaks breathe in light. Many of the metals that fuel human civilization were born in mountains long vanished. Gold, silver, and copper formed in the heat and pressure beneath ancient ranges, carried upward by fluids that seeped through fractures and cooled into veins of ore. As erosion wore away those mountains, the metals were revealed, waiting for discovery. Each piece of jewelry, each circuit, each coin is a fragment of vanished peaks, a spark of fire that has traveled through time. When you hold metal in your hand, you are holding the condensed patience of the earth. Even diamonds owe their beauty to mountain building forces. Deep within the mantle, carbon atoms compressed under immense pressure crystallize into gems. When tectonic collisions lift them closer to the surface, volcanoes sometimes bring them the rest of the way. Every diamond is a traveler from the planet's depths, carried upward by the same power that raises mountains. Its facets reflect not only light but the story of transformation, from dark to brilliance, from hidden to revealed. The glitter of a jewel is the echo of fire stilled into form. Mountains are also records of oceans long gone. Within their layers lie fossils of coral, shells, and fish, proof that water once covered what now touches the clouds. These fossils tell scientists how climates shifted, how seas rose and fell, and how life itself evolved. To find a seashell embedded in limestone high above the treeline is to glimpse the fluid history of the world, where the same stone has been both seabed and summit. The mountain carries the memory of both. Some ranges still hold fragments of vanished continents. Within their folds, geologists have found rocks that do not match the land around them, pieces of crust carried across oceans and welded into new formations. These fragments, called terrains, reveal the wanderings of Earth's surface across deep time. The Appalachian Mountains in North America share geological roots with the Atlas Mountains in Africa, remnants of the ancient supercontinent Pangaea. Once, these lands were one continuous chain of peaks. When the continents drifted apart, the mountains divided but did not forget. The same minerals that glitter in one hemisphere continue their story on the other side of the sea. To study a mountain is to study motion disguised as stillness. Every ridge and valley is a frozen wave, captured at the crest of its journey. The peaks appear unmoving, yet satellites watch them shift by fractions of an inch each year. Some grow, others sink, and all are shaped by forces that never sleep. The planet's heartbeat flows through them, steady and sure. To listen to a mountain is to hear that rhythm, slow, powerful, and infinite. These are the foundations of understanding. Mountains are more than stone. They are systems that connect air, water, fire, and life. They sculpt weather, hold rivers, bend light, and whisper to the stars. In their silence lies the story of the Earth's creation, a story that continues even now. The peaks we admire are not endings but pauses in a greater flow, the visible expression of a living planet's desire to reach upward. As you rest within this thought, The next chapter of our journey begins. One that dives deeper into the mystery. How these ancient forms shape everything around them. And how within their stillness, the world itself learns to move. As we move deeper into the story of mountains, their silence begins to sound like thought. They are not only geological formations but the visible expression of time thinking itself into shape. Each layer of stone holds the memory of pressure and release, of water dissolving and reforming, of minerals rearranging themselves into balance. What looks like stillness is the result of countless adjustments, every crystal seeking the calm point where tension becomes form. The mountain is the embodiment of equilibrium, the moment when motion learns to rest without ceasing. High above the valleys, the air turns thin and pure. You can see farther here than almost anywhere else on Earth. The curvature of the horizon is clear, the shadows sharper, and the light more honest. Stars remain visible even before the sun has fully set. It is as though the veil between worlds has thinned. The thin air no longer filters sunlight, allowing every wavelength to reach the surface unaltered. The sky becomes a deep indigo. The snow gleams with inner fire, and the stones radiate warmth long after dusk. Mountains reveal not only the shape of the planet but the clarity of its light. At these heights, sound behaves differently too. There is less air to carry it, so every note travels farther before fading. The faint crack of ice shifting in a glacier can echo like a drum. A single gust of wind can whisper through valleys as though the earth were breathing. Some days, when the air is completely still, the silence feels alive, a presence rather than an absence. That quiet teaches you to listen, not for words but for patterns, not for voices but for rhythm. The mountain does not speak in sentences, it speaks in pauses. When clouds form around a summit, they move with elegant slowness, rolling and dissolving like thoughts in a meditative mind. These clouds, known as lenticular formations, hover in place for hours, shaped by the steady current of wind rising along the slopes. They resemble floating discs, glowing pink and gold at sunrise, pure white by midday, and violet by evening. Pilots avoid flying through them because of the turbulence that hides within their calm appearance. Yet to those on the ground, they look like halos, crowns of air and light that remind the world how beautiful balance can be. Every mountain influences the flow of air in ways invisible but profound. As wind passes over ridges, it sets off waves that ripple through the atmosphere. Some of these waves travel halfway around the planet, altering weather thousands of miles away. Scientists have traced patterns in the jet stream that can be linked to the presence of mountain ranges, as if the peaks were fingers lightly touching the sky, guiding its motion. In this sense, each mountain composes part of the global rhythm, conducting the climate like a vast orchestra of air. At night, as temperatures drop, air cools and sinks down the slopes, carrying the scent of pine, stone, and ice. This downslope breeze is known as katabatic wind, a slow exhale of the mountain itself. When dawn arrives, the sun warms the surface again, and the air rises in response, creating a new current that moves upward through the valleys. This exchange repeats endlessly, a breathing motion between day and night. The mountain inhales and exhales with the turning of the planet, shaping local weather with the grace of something alive. Lightning, too, finds kinship with mountains. Storm clouds drawn to high peaks discharge their energy upon the first point that touches the sky. A single strike releases more power than an entire city uses in an instant. The heat fuses grains of sand into glass, forming delicate tubes called fulgurites that hide beneath the soil. These fragile creations are the fossils of lightning, the trace of a conversation between heaven and earth. When geologists unearthed them, they are holding the remains of thunder made solid. In the heart of a storm, mountains sometimes sing. Before lightning strikes, the buildup of electrical charge causes the air to hum with faint vibration. Metal objects buzz, hair stands upright, and invisible threads of static dance through the mist. The glow known as St. Elmo's fire flickers at the tips of peaks and climbing tools, casting a ghostly blue light. It is the sky rehearsing its descent, the atmosphere preparing to speak. These moments remind us that even the most solid ground participates in the energy of the cosmos. The mountain is a conductor not just of weather but of wonder. Deep within, beneath the snow and stone, mountains continue to move. Rock under pressure behaves like clay over time, bending and flowing so slowly that human senses cannot perceive it. Layers slide over one another, folding in intricate patterns that geologists study like fingerprints. The temperature increases with depth, and minerals rearrange themselves into new forms, creating crystals that glimmer with trapped light. Each transformation marks a chapter in the mountain's autobiography. Every grain of quartz and feldspar carries a story older than species, older even than continents. Rivers born from mountain snow carve paths that trace these stories downward. They begin as threads of silver trickling through gravel, joining into streams that cut deeper with every turn. Over ages, they become canyons, vast scars where water has written poetry into the crust. Some rivers, like the Colorado or the Indus, have been flowing for millions of years, their persistence rivaling the peaks that feed them. When you stand beside such a river, you are hearing the mountain translated into motion, its solid voice turned liquid. The sound of rushing water is the sound of stone remembering how to move. Many ancient cultures saw mountains as living beings. They imagined gods or spirits sleeping within the rock, dreaming the weather into existence. Temples were built on high slopes to draw closer to the divine. Where the air felt thinner and the sky more immediate, pilgrims risked their lives to reach those summits, believing that altitude brought them nearer to purity. Though we now understand the physics of these heights, the feeling remains the same. Standing upon a mountain still fills the heart with reverence. The sense of elevation is both physical and spiritual, an ascent not just through space but through awareness. The spiritual pull of mountains may come from the chemistry of the air itself. At higher elevations, oxygen is lower but negative ions are higher, created by waterfalls, storms, and the interaction of wind with rock. These ions affect the human body in subtle ways, calming the nervous system, sharpening attention, and lifting mood. People often describe feeling more alive, more connected, or more awake after time in the mountains. Science explains part of the mystery, but not all of it. Perhaps the truth is simpler, that silence, height, and light combine to create a sense of balance the heart remembers but the mind forgets. At sunset, the temperature drops quickly, shadows stretch long across the valleys, and the last light burns in colors too fleeting to name. The peaks glow pink, then gold, then fade into blue. Stars begin to appear, one by one, until the sky becomes a tapestry of light. Far from cities, the Milky Way arches overhead like a frozen river. Astronomers build observatories on these summits because the air is clear and steady. From here, telescopes can peer across billions of years, catching the faint glow of galaxies whose light began its journey before the mountains themselves existed. To gaze from a mountain top is to look both backward and outward, into the heart of time and the fabric of space. The connection between mountains and the stars is not just poetic. The same physical laws that fold rock into peaks also sculpt the surfaces of distant worlds. On Mars, on Venus, even on icy moons far beyond Jupiter, the same balance of gravity and pressure shapes landscapes of breathtaking scale. Mountains are the common language of planets, the way worlds express their internal energy. Each one, whether on Earth or elsewhere, is a gesture of creation, the universe lifting its own face toward the light. Every mountain shapes the life that grows upon it. From its base to its summit, the air thins, the soil changes, and the world transforms in gentle steps. Forests that thrive in the warmth of valleys gradually yield to pines, then to low shrubs, mosses, and finally to bare stone. Each altitude is a new ecosystem, a separate universe of adaptation. Animals and plants that live here learn to follow the rhythm of wind and temperature, rising and falling with the seasons. Some plants bloom for only a few weeks when the snow recedes, pouring all their energy into that brief moment of sunlight. In their fragile existence lies a perfect example of balance, life adjusting itself to the patience of the earth. There are flowers that open only in the thin air above 10,000 feet. Their petals are small and bright, designed to catch what little warmth the sun gives. Insects visit them in rare stillness, carrying pollen across distances that feel infinite compared to their size. Higher still, even the hardiest vegetation disappears, replaced by lichen clinging to rock, their colors soft and ancient. These quiet organisms break down minerals grain by grain, creating the first soil for future life. They are the slow gardeners of the mountains, turning stone into potential. From their work, forests will one day grow again. Animals follow these same invisible borders. Mountain goats and ibexes leap across cliffs with ease, their hooves gripping surfaces that seem impossible to hold. Hikers gather dried grass in summer, storing it in tiny dens for the long winter ahead. Eagles circle the ridges, their wings outstretched, riding invisible rivers of air that rise from the valley floor. Every movement, every adaptation, is a dialogue with the mountain. These creatures do not fight the environment, they merge with it, allowing its strength to become their own. Some of the smallest mountain dwellers lead the most remarkable lives. In the cloud forests of South America, frogs spend their entire existence within mist. They breathe through their skin, drinking moisture directly from the air. Their eggs rest on leaves glistening with dew, never needing to touch the ground. When clouds drift through the trees, the frogs move with them, as if the sky itself were their home. These forests, shrouded in perpetual fog, are the threshold between earth and heaven. They remind us that even within thin air, life can flourish in forms both delicate and complete. High above the snowline, birds challenge the limits of endurance. The bar-headed goose crosses the Himalayas each year, flying higher than any other bird known. At dawn, when air is denser and winds calmer, they rise along invisible corridors of pressure, their hearts beating with perfect rhythm. In that frozen space, where oxygen is scarce and temperature deadly cold, they glide past peaks that few humans have ever seen. Scientists studying these birds discovered that their blood binds oxygen more efficiently, allowing them to fly where the air holds barely a third of what it does at sea level. Each wingbeat is a triumph of life over limitation, a whisper of determination carried upon the wind. Some insects, too, have made the mountains their home. Snow fleas and ice midges crawl across glaciers, surviving with antifreeze in their blood. Tiny beetles live among stones warmed by sunlight, while butterflies migrate up and down the slopes with the changing seasons. The Apollo butterfly, found in the Alps, drifts like a fragment of cloud, its wings white and spotted with red, echoing the colors of sunrise. These small lives, often unseen, complete the circle of the ecosystem. They pollinate flowers, feed birds, and return nutrients to the soil, ensuring that even at the highest altitudes, the pulse of life remains unbroken. Humanity's relationship with mountains is older than history. Long before science could name tectonic plates or glacial erosion, people understood the quiet power of height. In myths from every culture, mountains were bridges to the divine. Olympus, Meru, Kailash, Fuji, each was seen as the place where earth met heaven, where the spirit could rise above the noise of the world. Even today, climbers and pilgrims feel a deep sense of reverence when standing before these ancient forms. The effort of ascent mirrors an inner climb, a journey toward perspective, humility, and connection. Mountains remind us how small we are, yet how capable of awe. Ancient builders honored this truth by raising temples on peaks and ridges. They believed that prayers carried farther in the thin air, closer to the realm of the gods. The Incas built shrines high in the Andes, offering gold figures to the sky. In Tibet, monasteries perch on cliffs above the clouds, their bells echoing across valleys like wind itself. Even in modern times, the same instinct endures. Observatories now replace temples, but the intention is the same: to look outward, to seek understanding beyond the horizon. The mountain remains a meeting point between curiosity and devotion. For those who live among the peaks, the connection is more intimate. Entire cultures have grown within valleys shaped by stone. In the Himalayas, Sherpa communities thrive where air is thin and seasons are short. In the Andes, farmers tend terraces that climb the mountainsides like steps toward the sky. These people do not merely survive, they belong. Their songs carry the rhythm of wind. Their language holds the vocabulary of altitude. They know the moods of clouds, the taste of snow, and the sound of stones shifting before a storm. For them, the mountain is not scenery but companion, patient, challenging, and endlessly present. Mountains teach endurance not through resistance but through adaptation. The life that surrounds them is flexible, bending rather than breaking. Trees at high altitude grow twisted, their trunks curved by years of wind, their branches shaped into living sculptures. The same pressure that carves rock also shapes the forms of life that cling to it. What endures does so by learning how to yield. This is one of the mountain's oldest lessons: that strength lies not in defiance but in harmony. When the sun sets behind the peaks, the cold returns swiftly. Frost forms upon the grass, and stars gather above like ancient watchers. In the thin air, sound carries clearly, and even a whisper seems to stretch across distance. Fires burn low in mountain villages, and the scent of smoke mingles with pine. The world feels suspended, caught between night and eternity. It is in such stillness that the true voice of the mountain can be heard, not in thunder or avalanche, but in the quiet assurance that everything belongs to time, and time belongs to the earth. The mountain's surface is alive, but so too is what lies beneath. Tunnels of ice and caverns of stone stretch deep into the crust, where water moves unseen, carving new paths. Some of these subterranean rivers travel for centuries before re-emerging as springs. Others remain forever hidden, shaping the land from within. In the dark, crystals grow at the pace of breath, shimmering faintly in the warmth of the Earth's core. Each one is an artifact of patience, a sculpture born from the meeting of water and mineral. In these secret depths, the mountain dreams, and the world above continues to change, unaware of the silent beauty forming below. Every detail, from the smallest crystal to the grandest peak, reflects the same truth, that the planet is a single, living process. Mountains are not the end of that process but its slowest moment. They are the pause between eruptions, the inhalation between breaths, the visible proof that creation and rest are one and the same. To understand them is to understand the balance that sustains all things, the stillness that moves, the silence that speaks, and the strength that exists only through surrender. As night deepens over the mountains, a different world awakens. The air grows still, and the temperature drops just enough for dew to form upon the grass. Above the valleys, thin ribbons of mist drift like silver threads. Glowing softly in starlight, the peaks stand in silence, their outlines sharp against the indigo sky. From afar, they look eternal, but even now they are changing. Frost creeps into cracks, rocks shift imperceptibly, and small streams freeze into ribbons of glass. Time continues its work in silence, sculpting the land grain by grain. To witness this quiet transformation is to see patience made visible. The stillness of a mountain night is not empty, it is filled with layers of movement too slow to see. Air cools and sinks, sliding down the slopes into the valleys below. Rivers murmur beneath sheets of ice. Small animals stir in the dark, following invisible paths through snow. Even stars seem to move more slowly here, their reflections flickering across frozen lakes. Everything breathes in rhythm, each motion a note in the song of the earth. If you listen long enough, you can almost sense that song weaving through you, reminding your body that you are part of this same, unbroken pattern. Mountains influence not only the shape of the land but the mind that looks upon them. Scientists have found that time spent at altitude slows the heart rate, lowers stress, and quiets the activity of the brain's restless centers. The very sight of vast open space, of ridges fading into horizon after horizon, activates parts of the mind linked to calm and perspective. The immensity of the scene invites the ego to dissolve. You do not feel small in a fearful way but in a peaceful one. Like a drop returning to the ocean. In that moment of awareness, thought and landscape become the same thing. There is a reason ancient healers sent those who were weary to the mountains. The air here carries fewer pollutants. The sound is soft, and the body naturally synchronizes with the slower pace of nature. Breathing in this thin air is a kind of meditation. Each inhale draws more deeply, each exhale feels like release. The mountain becomes a teacher of rhythm, reminding us that peace is not an escape from movement but a gentle participation in it. Even the simplest act, walking, sitting, breathing, feels like part of a larger harmony. During the day, when the sun climbs high, light moves across the slopes with liquid grace. It begins as gold upon the peaks, then slides slowly down, warming the valleys. Shadows shift like tides, returning to the ridges in the evening. This daily choreography shapes not only the landscape but the way life unfolds within it. Flowers open and close with the turning of the light. Insects rise when the sun reaches their chosen temperature. Humans, too, adjust to this pattern. In the mountains, days feel longer because the light is purer. Nights feel deeper because the darkness is true. The alternation of day and night here is a perfect rhythm, a reminder of the balance that governs all living things. When storms approach, The mountains answer with sound and light. Clouds gather in slow procession, their undersides glowing silver as they pass over the peaks. Thunder rolls from ridge to ridge, softened by distance until it becomes a heartbeat echoing through the valleys. Lightning reveals the hidden texture of cliffs, illuminating waterfalls and forests in flashes of brilliance. Then rain begins to fall, not a violent torrent, but a steady whisper that cleanses the air and renews the soil. Every droplet is part of the mountain's endless cycle, returning what was borrowed and preparing for the next dawn. Water that begins its journey on a mountain may travel for months or years before reaching the sea. Along the way, it carries minerals that enrich the land. Some of those minerals feed forests. Others nourish coral reefs after being released into the ocean. The mountain and the sea are connected by this invisible thread. Each time it rains on the slopes, the ocean receives a gift. Each time the ocean evaporates into clouds, the mountain receives a return. The circle is perfect, endless, and full of grace. Mountains also create shadows that shape human experience. The pattern of light and dark across the slopes tells time as accurately as any clock. Shepherds once measured their days by the position of the sun upon a familiar ridge. Travelers learned to read the landscape, knowing when to rest and when to move by watching where sunlight touched the rock. Even now, satellites track these same patterns from above, studying how light behaves across the planet. Every sunrise over the Himalayas, every sunset behind the Rockies, contributes to the Earth's living calendar, marking the passage of time not in numbers but in beauty. In the highest regions of the world, light and air combine to produce rare phenomena that seem like illusions. When the sun hovers just below the horizon, peaks appear to glow from within, a moment known as alpenglow. The snow turns pink, then crimson, then slowly fades to blue as night takes over. Occasionally, when conditions are right, the shadows of peaks stretch upward into the sky, forming ghostly pyramids of darkness that seem to point toward infinity. These effects last only minutes, but they leave impressions that stay for a lifetime. They are the universe's brief gestures of art, performed upon the canvas of the earth. At lower altitudes, fog drifts through forests and valleys, weaving light into soft veils. This fog carries the scent of pine, damp soil, and stone, a perfume unique to mountains. Breathing it feels like drinking water that has been turned into air. It fills the lungs and cools the skin, leaving a feeling of clarity that no city air could ever offer. When the sun finally breaks through, every drop of moisture sparkles as if the mountain were wearing jewels. These moments remind you that beauty does not require grand gestures. It can exist in the quiet meeting of light, air, and water. Mountains also hold night in a special way, without city lights to interfere. Darkness here is complete, but never frightening. It is a kind of comfort, the feeling of being held by something vast and steady. When you lie down beneath the stars, the silence becomes almost tangible. You can hear your breath, the distant rustle of wind, perhaps the faint call of an owl. The Milky Way glows above like a luminous river, connecting horizon to horizon. Each star feels closer, brighter, more personal. Many travelers describe a strange peace in that view, the realization that the same atoms shining in those distant suns exist within their own bodies. The mountain becomes the bridge between those two immensities, matter and light. There are mountains beneath the oceans, too, shaping currents and ecosystems hidden from the sky. Volcanic ridges and seamounts form the skeleton of the planet, guiding the flow of deep water. These submerged ranges host life in complete darkness: coral, tube worms, fish that produce their own light. The patterns of heat and mineral that rise from those depths influence weather above the surface. The same processes that shape the Andes or the Himalayas also sculpt the invisible landscapes below the sea. When we think of mountains, we often picture height, yet their true essence lies in structure, in the upward and downward motion that defines the breathing of worlds. To rest among mountains is to rest inside that breath. Every element, air, stone, water, and light, participates in the slow conversation of existence. The senses awaken not with excitement but with understanding. The mind begins to mirror the mountain, calm and receptive, shaped by the quiet repetition of nature's rhythm. In that space, you are no longer merely observing the landscape, you are part of its continuity. The stillness that surrounds you is the same stillness that exists within you. When the sun rises once more, the mountains emerge from shadow like memory returning to the waking mind. Their colors shift slowly from gray to gold, then to the soft blue of daylight. The first light touches the highest snowfields, gliding down the slopes until even the lowest valley begins to glow. Everything feels renewed, yet nothing has changed. The same stones stand where they always have. The same air flows through the same ravines. And still the sight feels fresh each morning. This repetition is what makes mountains seem eternal. They do not resist change, they master it by becoming part of its rhythm. For the creatures that live among them, morning is a time of motion. Birds rise from hidden nests, their wings catching the light as they trace familiar paths through the air. Marmots whistle to one another across meadows, warning of the day's first eagles. Insects warm their bodies on sunlit rocks, waiting for the temperature to rise just enough to move. Even glaciers, seemingly frozen in place, begin their slow descent once the surface softens. The world above the clouds comes alive in silence, each being moving according to a pattern older than memory. The people who have lived for generations in mountain regions know these patterns by heart. They have learned to read the language of snow, to understand the meaning of small changes in wind or temperature. For them, nature is not an obstacle but a conversation. When they plant crops, they follow the contours of the land, shaping terraces that hold both soil and water. Their homes face east to greet the morning sun and close against the evening wind. Every tradition is an answer to the question the mountain asks: how will you live in harmony with me today? Over time, this harmony becomes culture. Songs sung at harvest echo through valleys like prayer. Festivals celebrate the return of rain or the first thaw of spring. Stories passed down through centuries describe the spirits of peaks, guardians who watch over travelers and protect the balance of the land. Though modern science explains these forces in other terms, the reverence remains the same. Mountains command respect not because they demand it, but because their presence awakens something ancient within us, a recognition that we are guests in a house far older than our species. The wisdom of mountains is not loud. It speaks through endurance, through the way each tree grows from stone, through the patient migration of glaciers that carve beauty from resistance. Human time is measured in days and decades, but mountain time flows differently. It is measured in layers, in the movement of fault lines, in the slow return of rivers to the sea. To contemplate that scale is to expand one's sense of existence. The mind quiets when faced with such immensity. The heart slows. Perspective widens. What once seemed urgent begins to soften. Science reveals that even within this apparent stillness, constant activity continues. Beneath the peaks, The mantle circulates like a vast ocean of heat, carrying minerals upward and recycling the crust. The air above shifts in endless cycles of condensation and release. Plants exchange gases with the atmosphere. Animals move nutrients through the soil. And ice reflects sunlight into space. Every process interlocks with another. To study a mountain is to see the unity of Earth, the seamless cooperation of elements that sustain one another. This is the same unity that sustains you, breath, blood, heat, and thought moving together in unspoken agreement. In every language, there are words for height, but few for depth of stillness. Mountains create that depth by inviting silence. They give shape to the invisible, defining where the sky begins and where the earth ends. To stand among them is to feel the boundary between body and world blur. The same minerals that form their granite also circulate within your bones. The same water that melts from their glaciers flows through your veins. The connection is not metaphorical but literal. You are made of the same material as the mountain, just arranged in a different rhythm. This awareness changes the way you see motion. You begin to recognize that what seems solid is always in flux. And what seems fleeting can endure for ages. The mountain erodes even as it grows. The clouds dissolve even as they form. Life and death, creation and decay, are not opposites here. They are partners in a single, continuous act of becoming. In this, the mountain mirrors the nature of consciousness itself, steady yet changing, present yet infinite. To rest in its presence is to rest within that understanding. At dusk, when the day's light fades once again, the valleys fill with shadows that rise like tidewater. The peaks turn violet, then silver under the moon. A calm settles over everything. Deeper than before, the sounds of day vanish until only the heartbeat of the earth remains. This is the hour when the mountain seems most alive, not because it moves, but because it listens. The wind softens, the air cools, and even time seems to pause. You can feel the quiet enter your body, soothing muscles, slowing thought, preparing you for rest. In these moments, the line between observation and dream disappears. You are no longer simply looking at the landscape, you are part of it. Breathing in its rhythm, the mountain becomes both teacher and companion. It shows that peace is not the absence of motion but the alignment of every motion into one flow. The heart that beats within you is not separate from the pulse of rivers or the drift of stars. It is the same energy taking different shapes, returning again and again to the same truth, that all things rise, fall, and rise once more. The journey through mountains is, in the end, a journey through time and self. It begins with stone and ends in awareness. It teaches that endurance is not defiance but acceptance. That beauty is the natural result of balance. And that strength is born from patience. To listen to a mountain is to hear the universe practicing stillness. To rest in its shadow is to feel the weight of eternity made gentle. Now, as the stars take their places in the clear sky, imagine lying at the foot of a quiet ridge. The air is cool and smells of earth and snow. The world above you is silent except for the soft movement of wind. The same processes that raised continents and carved valleys are still at work, unseen, unhurried, and kind. If you close your eyes, you can feel them. The earth turns, the mountain breathes, and within that vast rhythm, your own breath finds its place. There comes a moment in every journey when movement slows and understanding deepens. After tracing the rise of continents, the breath of glaciers, and the quiet labor of time, you reach a place that feels both inside and outside the world. The air is thin here, the light softer, the noise of thought fading into something quieter. The mountain has guided you upward, not only through its ridges and valleys but through layers of awareness. You begin to see that every fact, every fragment of geology, has been a lesson in patience. The story of mountains is not only about stone, it is about stillness, learning how to hold change. If you listen closely, you can feel that stillness now. It gathers around you like mist, gentle but persistent. The rhythm of your breathing matches the rhythm of the wind that curls through the rocks. Time feels slower, the seconds stretching wide enough to rest within. The world no longer asks for effort. It simply invites you to be. In this space, science and silence become one language. The numbers that describe elevation and pressure dissolve into sensations of weight and balance. The mountain's story has become your own heartbeat, steady, enduring, calm. Perhaps this is why humans have always sought mountains when they needed perspective. Climbing has never been only about reaching a summit. It is a kind of listening, a way to measure the distance between what is temporary and what endures. The effort, the stillness, the view, all of it reminds the traveler that existence itself is layered. Beneath the shifting surface of every day lies something older, something that waits quietly beneath noise and thought. To touch that stillness is to remember what it means to belong. In the glow of afternoon light, shadows begin to lengthen across the slopes. Each stone casts a reflection that changes with the sun's slow descent. The peaks no longer appear distant, they seem to lean closer. As if to share their secret. You realize the secret is simple: nothing stands alone. The mountain, the wind, the water, the life that clings to its sides, they exist only because of one another. The river needs gravity, the forest needs rain, the cloud needs heat rising from the rock. Every element supports the next. An unbroken circle of giving and receiving. This is the essence of peace, not stillness without movement, but harmony within change. For a moment, you close your eyes. You feel warmth upon your face. The faint vibration of insects moving through grass. The smell of mineral and pine. You imagine the countless days and nights that have passed across this same slope, storms, seasons, the slow carving of time. The mountain has witnessed it all without resistance. It has allowed itself to be shaped by every force that touched it. That is the lesson it offers. Strength is not the absence of change but the ability to remain whole through it. In the quiet, your own life begins to appear as part of this same rhythm. The challenges you have faced, the moments of growth and erosion, the years of building and letting go, they are not separate from what happens here. The pressures that form mountains are the same that shape the human spirit. Both are born from heat, from collision, from the need to rise. Both learn endurance through surrender. When you realize this, the distance between you and the earth disappears. You are not standing on the mountain, you are standing within it. The light shifts again. Evening settles. The peaks glow with a last trace of gold before fading into blue. Everything becomes softer, the air, the color, even sound itself. A stream nearby murmurs quietly, its voice carrying through the stillness like a lullaby. The mountain seems to breathe with you, its vast presence matching your slow inhale and exhale. In that rhythm, understanding turns into peace. There is nothing left to prove, nothing to solve. The planet continues its work in silence, and that silence becomes your comfort. All knowledge eventually leads here, to this recognition of unity. The facts of geology, the data of erosion, the cycles of climate, they are all different ways of describing one truth: that creation and dissolution are the same act. The same forces that build also wear down. The same energy that lifts also yields. To live is to participate in this balance. The mountain shows that nothing is ever truly lost. The rock that crumbles becomes soil. The soil becomes life. The life becomes memory. The memory returns to stone. The circle closes. Endlessly patient, endlessly kind. As darkness arrives, the first stars appear above the ridges. Their light traveled across unimaginable distance to reach this moment. You look up, and for an instant, the peaks and the constellations seem to belong to the same geometry. Both are patterns of permanence carved into space. The same gravity that holds the mountains to the earth holds the stars in their paths. Everything that exists moves within the same field of connection. Even the thoughts drifting through your mind are part of that gravity, rising and falling like tides of consciousness. The mountain no longer feels distant or enormous. It feels familiar, like something within you that has always been there but forgotten. The air you breathe has touched glaciers, forests, oceans, and deserts before reaching your lungs. The water that flows in rivers once moved through veins of stone. The heartbeat that guides your body is synchronized with the slow, steady pulse of the planet. To remember this is to rest completely. To rest completely is to understand. So pause here a little longer. Let the stillness wrap around you. The mountain has carried you far, from creation to understanding, from science to peace. Ahead lies a broader horizon, where thought fades into wonder, and the earth itself becomes a mirror for the universe. Stay quiet, breathe slowly, and feel how the rhythm continues without your effort. You are already part of the balance that keeps everything whole. When night settles fully across the mountains, the sky becomes an ocean of stars. The light you see above has traveled for millions of years, crossing space in silence before touching your eyes. Between you and those distant suns lies emptiness measured not in miles but in time. Yet the sight feels intimate, as though the sky bends closer to greet the earth. The peaks rise like islands from a sea of darkness, their snow reflecting faint starlight. Here, you begin to sense that mountains are not merely features of a planet but the handwriting of the universe, lines of energy frozen into form. Somewhere far beyond, other worlds hold mountains of their own. On Mars, Olympus Mons towers higher than any peak on Earth, a shield volcano so vast it could cover an entire country. On Venus, Maxwell Montes glows beneath clouds of acid, its surface shining faintly like polished metal. Even on distant moons, mountains rise from ice instead of stone, sculpted by forces as ancient as gravity itself. Each world carries its own version of height, its own language of elevation. It seems the universe is filled with these gestures of reaching upward, outward, endlessly toward the light. When you gaze into the night sky from a high ridge, you are part of that reaching. The photons touching your face are older than humanity, older even than the mountains beneath your feet. They began their journey before the first cells formed in ancient oceans, before continents found their shape. To feel their warmth is to touch history itself. The atoms in your skin, in the air you breathe, in the rocks around you, were born in stars that burned and died long ago. The mountain, the sky, and you are made of the same dust. The universe recycles itself through time, reshaping what it was into what it will be, without ever losing its essence. The same forces that lift mountains are mirrored in the fabric of the cosmos. Gravity binds galaxies together as it binds rock to earth. Pressure inside stars fuses atoms the way pressure beneath the crust fuses minerals. Everywhere, the same laws express themselves in different forms. The universe is not a chaos of separate things. It is a single pattern written at multiple scales. To see a mountain is to glimpse that pattern. A tiny example of the balance that sustains everything. What you are witnessing in stone is the same rhythm that keeps planets spinning and stars alive. This realization brings comfort. It means that even when you feel small or distant, you are not separate from the whole. The same pulse that drives the motion of galaxies also moves within your chest. When you breathe slowly, you are echoing the expansion and contraction of the universe itself. When your heart beats, it keeps time with the turning of worlds. You belong not because you must earn belonging, but because you are made of belonging. The mountain teaches this truth by existing, solid yet fluid, unmoving yet alive, timeless yet fleeting in cosmic scale. The glaciers that rest upon high peaks reflect the past like mirrors of frozen light. Each layer of ice preserves ancient air, dust, and pollen. Within them lies the record of volcanic eruptions, of shifting climates, of the delicate balance between sunlight and snow. Scientists drill deep into these frozen archives to study what the Earth remembers. The air trapped in bubbles tells of warmth and cold, of the breath of forests, of the rise and fall of civilizations. Mountains hold this memory without judgment. They simply keep it, patient and faithful, until we learn how to listen. Listening to mountains requires a slower kind of attention. It is not done through instruments alone but through awareness. To watch the way mist gathers at dawn. To notice how rivers swell after rain. To feel the vibration of distant thunder moving through the ground. These are all forms of understanding. The body becomes the tool of perception. And intuition becomes a language older than speech. In this way, observation turns to empathy. The mountain is no longer a subject of study but a companion in conversation. Its silence is not absence but depth, an invitation to rest within its rhythm. Every culture that has lived close to mountains has developed stories that mirror this rhythm. In the Andes, the peaks are called apis, protectors of the valleys and keepers of balance. In Japan, Mount Fuji is a symbol of harmony between fire and snow, earth and sky. In Tibet, Mount Kailash is said to be the axis of the world, the center from which all rivers flow. These stories are not myths in the sense of falsehoods. They are ways of expressing truths too large for language. Through them, people remember that to live near mountains is to live near eternity. Even those who have never seen a mountain feel their pull. In dreams, mountains often appear as symbols of challenge or revelation. Psychologists interpret them as the image of aspiration, the desire to rise above limitation. But perhaps the meaning is simpler. The human spirit, like the planet itself, seeks elevation, a state of clarity, a moment of perspective. We climb not to conquer but to align ourselves with something greater. The act of ascent mirrors the journey of thought, of compassion, of awareness expanding beyond its boundaries. The mountain, whether real or imagined, becomes the shape of that journey. When you stand at a summit, the air is so thin that breathing itself becomes an act of devotion. Each inhale feels like a gift. Each exhale like gratitude. The view stretches farther than vision can hold. Valleys lie below like folds of silk. Rivers shimmer like threads of silver. The horizon curves gently, reminding you of the roundness of the world. In that stillness, the mind becomes transparent. You understand that there is no division between the mountain and the one who stands upon it. Both are expressions of the same intention, to rise, to open, to be present within the light. Far below, clouds drift through canyons and forests, casting moving shadows upon the ground. The wind carries the scent of distant rain. Everything is in motion, and yet everything feels still. The paradox is perfect. Motion so complete it becomes peace. This is the truth the mountain offers to those who listen. That serenity is not the absence of change but its mastery. To live well is to move as mountains move. To endure as they endure. To rise as they rise, quietly, gracefully, in rhythm with the forces that sustain the universe. As the night deepens, the border between earth and sky dissolves completely. You can no longer tell where the peaks end and where the heavens begin. The stars appear to rest upon the summits, as if drawn by gravity made of wonder rather than mass. The Milky Way spills like a river of light across the horizon, flowing above the valleys the way glaciers once flowed below them. In this stillness, it becomes clear that mountains are the meeting point of two infinities: the vastness beneath the surface and the endlessness above it. They rise from the planet's inner fire and reach toward the stars born of other fires, completing the circle of creation. The same chemistry binds both realms. The calcium in the bones of the mountains is the same element that strengthens your own body. The iron that colors red cliffs also colors your blood. The trace minerals that sparkle within granite exist within every cell. This is not metaphor but fact. You are built from the same material as the world you stand upon. When you breathe, you exchange atoms with the air that drifts over ridges and forests. When you drink water, you are sipping what was once snow upon a distant peak. The body and the earth are continuous, different shapes of the same matter, remembering one another with every breath. Because of this continuity, rest itself becomes cosmic. When you fall asleep, your breathing slows to match the rhythm of the planet's rotation. The air entering your lungs once moved across deserts, oceans, and mountains, shaped by the same wind that bends the trees on the slopes outside. In sleep, the boundary between self and world disappears completely. The pulse of your heart echoes the quiet tremor of tectonic movement beneath the crust. You are, without knowing it, part of the same timeless dance. To lie still beneath the stars is to move in harmony with everything. Dreams that come in the mountains carry the clarity of thin air. People who sleep at altitude often describe visions filled with color and light. Landscapes that shimmer like reflections upon water. Scientists attribute this to changes in oxygen levels. But perhaps it is something deeper, the way proximity to the sky reminds the mind of its own vastness. The brain, released from its usual noise, mirrors the openness around it. Thoughts stretch out like ridgelines, slow and unbroken. Each dream feels ancient, as though borrowed from the memory of the earth itself. Somewhere out there, on other worlds, similar dreams may unfold. If there are beings among the stars, they too may stand upon their own versions of mountains, gazing into their skies and wondering if they are alone. In that wondering lies kinship. The shape of curiosity is universal. Every consciousness, wherever it exists, reaches upward, seeking to understand the mystery that made it possible. The urge to climb, to look, to breathe the thin air of knowledge, is the same in every corner of creation. The mountain is the symbol of that longing, the universe dreaming of its own height. Back on Earth, dawn begins again. Gentle and deliberate, the line of light grows along the edge of the world, tracing the curve of the horizon. Peaks emerge from shadow one by one, like thoughts rising from sleep. The first rays touch snowfields and glaciers, turning them to liquid gold. Mist curls upward from the valleys. Illuminated from within, everything feels suspended between waking and dreaming, as if the planet itself hesitates for a moment before beginning another day. The mountain glows with this hesitation, radiant with balance. Light at altitude behaves differently. It scatters less, travels farther, and carries a clarity that makes every edge precise. Colors seem both softer and more vivid. The world simplified to essence. Scientists describe this purity in terms of wavelengths and reflection, but experience knows it as stillness made visible. Watching sunlight move across a mountain range is like watching thought take form, gradual, continuous, inevitable. There is no rush, no drama, only grace. It is this slowness that quiets the mind, reminding you that beauty does not compete with time, it unfolds within it. The cycles of light and dark upon mountains mirror the rhythm of human emotion. There are times of ascent and brightness, of energy and expansion, followed by periods of shadow and introspection. Yet neither phase is permanent, and both are necessary. The mountain teaches that peace is not found in constant daylight but in the ability to accept both sun and shadow with equal gratitude. What matters is not where you are upon the slope but how you move with it, step by step, breath by breath, always returning to balance. From space, astronauts have described seeing the Himalayas glowing against the curve of the Earth, their snowy ridges catching sunlight long after the rest of the planet falls into night. To them, the mountains appear alive, like the veins of the planet illuminated from within. That image stays with anyone who has seen it, the realization that what seems small and local from below becomes part of a vast design when viewed from above. Perspective is everything. From one angle, the mountain is a challenge, from another, it is a pulse within the body of the world. Even sound behaves differently here. At high altitudes, the air is too thin to carry noise far, so every sound is precise. The crack of ice, the whisper of wind, the flutter of a bird's wings, each arrives alone, unblurred by echo. Silence in such a place is not emptiness but refinement. The fewer the sounds, the more clearly they are heard. It is like being inside the mind of the world at rest. The mountain's quiet is not the absence of life, it is life at its most composed. This quiet becomes a form of communication. When you walk slowly along a ridge, you notice that each step leaves a small vibration through the ground. Birds lift briefly, then settle again. Air swirls around your body, finding new paths. The mountain receives you, registers your presence, adjusts subtly to include you in its equilibrium. You realize that the planet listens. Every movement, every breath, every thought reverberates in some way through the network of existence. You are not apart from it but included, a participant in the endless exchange between matter and awareness. At sunset, when the last light brushes the peaks, the air cools once more, shadows lengthen across the snow, and the valleys begin to glow with reflected color, gold turning to rose, rose fading to gray. The world seems to inhale deeply, holding that breath in a long, serene pause before darkness returns. That moment, fleeting but eternal, is the essence of all things, the space between one heartbeat and the next. Between creation and rest, the mountain holds that pause for you, keeping it long enough for your own heart to remember what stillness feels like. You breathe in again, and the air feels weightless. It carries the taste of stone, of ice, of distance. In that breath, you sense the truth the mountain has been whispering all along, that you have never been separate from anything. The universe does not surround you, it moves through you. The same light that falls upon the snow has touched the surfaces of stars. The same particles that make your skin once drifted in cosmic dust. To exist is to belong entirely, without boundary or condition. When you begin to think about time within the mountain's rhythm, It stops feeling like a line and starts to feel like a circle. The stones beneath your feet were once molten, part of a world still forming. The dust that drifts across the valleys may have come from a ridge that vanished long before your ancestors took their first breath. Even your body is woven from fragments of vanished mountains. Calcium once lifted in coral reefs. Carbon once hidden in ancient leaves. Water once frozen inside glaciers now flows through your veins. You are a continuation, not a separate creation. The same energy that shaped the earth is shaping you. Time within mountains does not move forward, it deepens. Each layer of rock is a memory compressed into form. Some layers carry traces of extinct forests. Others record the passing of seas. When you touch the rough surface of granite, you are touching an accumulation of countless transformations. Heat, pressure, cooling, and erosion are the vocabulary of eternity. The mountain holds these words without needing to speak them. Its silence is eloquence, the perfect expression of patience. Scientists say that even the hardest stone is in constant motion. The molecules within it vibrate. The atoms shift. The subatomic particles dance. If you could see this invisible movement, you would realize that solidness is only an illusion of speed slowed down. The same dance happens within your cells, within the stars, within every breath you take. Matter and energy exchange places endlessly. Nothing is lost. Nothing truly dies. Every moment is a reshaping of the same timeless essence. The mountain's stillness is not the absence of motion but the harmony of infinite movement balanced perfectly within itself. Somewhere in that balance, memory finds its shape. When rain touches the mountain, a part of it lingers in cracks and pores. Freezing in winter, thawing in spring. With each cycle, water carves deeper, carrying away the smallest grains of rock. The process is so slow that a single human lifetime cannot see it. Yet over eons, it changes everything. In this way, the mountain remembers through transformation. Its memory is not stored in words but in form. Not in the past but in the continuity of becoming. You are standing upon the memory of water and heat, of pressure and release. When you think of memory in this way, it no longer belongs only to the mind. It belongs to the world. Every breeze that moves through a valley carries the scent of flowers that bloomed years ago. Every stone holds the echo of the sun that once warmed it. The mountain's memory is not linear but layered. The same way your own consciousness holds many times at once, the present feeling of breath, the faint awareness of heartbeat, the echo of distant thought. The world is remembering itself through you. And you are remembering the world in return. In that realization lies a new sense of immortality. It is not the promise of endless life, but of endless participation. When your body returns to the earth, it will not vanish. It will disperse into air, into water, into soil, into the quiet turning of seasons. The molecules that once composed your skin may one day form part of a tree, or drift upward into the clouds, or harden into veins of mineral deep below the crust. The story continues. The mountain knows this truth intimately, for it too transforms constantly while appearing unchanged. To live in harmony with that truth is to release fear and embrace belonging. Mountains have often been described as the bones of the planet. They give the Earth structure, anchoring its crust against the fluid motions of mantle and sea. Without them, continents would flatten, winds would flow without pattern, and rivers would lose their source. In a human body, bones provide the same quiet function. They do not move by themselves. Yet they make movement possible. They endure silently beneath skin and muscle, protecting, supporting, and remembering. When you stand among mountains, You are standing inside the skeleton of the world, the frame upon which all life depends. This comparison extends even further. Just as bones grow through stress, mountains grow through pressure. Just as fractures in bone heal stronger, faults within the crust create new peaks. Pain and resilience are woven together, both in bodies and in worlds. The earth evolves not in spite of tension but because of it. Your own growth follows the same pattern. Every challenge is a pressure shaping you into form, carving new space for strength to dwell. The mountain does not resist the forces that shape it, it becomes more complete through them. Above the peaks, clouds travel like slow travelers in time. Some will cross entire oceans before dissolving. Their shadows move across ridges, revealing for a moment the scale of space between earth and sky. You realize that perspective is always changing. What looks permanent from afar becomes fragile up close. What feels fleeting in a day becomes eternal when seen from a distance. This shifting awareness is the secret of wisdom. It teaches you that truth is not a single view but the ability to move among views without losing balance. Every mountain eventually meets the sea. The rivers that carry its dust become deltas. The deltas become shorelines, and the shorelines dissolve again into waves. But this ending is also a beginning. The minerals that settle upon the seafloor will one day rise again as new land. The same motion that breaks down also builds up. The sea does not mourn the loss of mountains because it understands their return. Everything recycles into everything else. Death, in this light, becomes continuity. As you imagine this cycle, you can feel its rhythm inside you. The inhale and exhale, the contraction and release, the waking and sleeping, all are reflections of the same universal tide. The universe breathes through you the way wind breathes through mountain passes. Each breath is an exchange of matter between inside and outside, self and world. When you breathe out, carbon atoms that were once part of the planet return to it. When you breathe in, oxygen released by ancient forests enters your bloodstream. You are both giver and receiver in the endless dialogue of existence. The understanding that follows is quiet but profound. You realize that nothing in the universe stands alone. Not even time. Every moment is connected to every other. As peaks connect through ridgelines beneath snow, the past flows into the future through the present. Not as a line but as a circle without edge or end. Mountains know this instinctively. Their summits crumble. Their roots rise. Their rivers return. What remains is the rhythm, the pulse of creation that continues long after any single form fades away. The stars above the peaks flicker as if responding to that pulse. Their light, ancient and steady, shines through the thin air and lands upon the same stones that once lay beneath oceans. It illuminates not only the world but the awareness that observes it. Somewhere in that exchange of light and thought, the universe recognizes itself. The mountain reflects the star reflects the mind, and the circle of reflection closes. There is no separation, only correspondence. To see this is to understand that existence itself is meditation, matter contemplating its own beauty. As the long night drifts toward its quietest hour, the mountain world enters a depth of stillness that feels almost sacred. The stars above remain unmoving, though they spin through their vast celestial paths, and the valleys below are wrapped in frost. Every sound has softened, even the rivers seem to murmur in whispers. The air is thin, but it carries a sense of completeness, as though the planet itself is resting between breaths. This is the hour when time loses meaning and awareness dissolves into calm. The mountain, the sky, and your own thoughts are all made of the same silence. Somewhere far below, deep within the Earth's mantle, heat continues to move. Magma shifts slowly, carrying minerals that will one day rise again as stone. The planet is not asleep, it is dreaming, reshaping itself with the same patience that guides the stars. You realize that what seems solid is only the surface of a living organism, an immense body of energy circulating in endless cycles of transformation. The heartbeat of the Earth echoes faintly through the crust, too slow for ears to hear, too vast for the mind to fully grasp. And yet you feel it, subtle but unmistakable, like a pulse shared between worlds. This realization brings a strange comfort. To exist within something so ancient and alive is to be protected by its endurance. The mountain beneath you has survived cataclysms, ice ages, and the drifting of continents. Its memory reaches back before humanity began, before rivers learned their names, before even the moon was as close as it is now. You are sitting upon history deeper than imagination, a story that has no beginning or end. The stone does not remember through fear or nostalgia. It remembers through presence. It simply continues, unbothered by change, content to exist as evidence of time's kindness. When the wind moves again, it feels like the planet sighing. Each gust gathers the scent of snow and pine, of minerals newly exposed by frost. As it passes your skin, it erases boundaries. You no longer know where the air ends and your breath begins. You are both the observer and the observed, a wave within the same ocean. The mountain has taught you the final lesson it offers, that to belong is not to possess but to participate. You belong to this rhythm by breathing with it, by existing inside its flow without resistance. Far above, the moon begins to set, its light slipping away behind the ridges. In the east, a faint glow hints at morning. Soon, the first color will return to the world. But before it does, there is a perfect stillness, a balance between night and day, shadow and light. This is the moment the mountain seems to hold forever, the boundary between everything and nothing, between sound and silence, between thought and rest. It is within this space that peace takes form, not as an idea but as sensation. You think of how many generations have looked upon these same peaks, their lives brief compared to the patience of stone. Shepherds once watched their flocks here. Philosophers pondered the heavens. Travelers carried stories from valley to valley. Their footprints faded, their words vanished, yet the mountain remains. It has seen everything that comes and goes and learned to love it all equally. It makes no distinction between growth and decay, because both are part of the same grace. To live as the mountain lives is to accept the passing of time not as loss but as renewal. Clouds begin to gather low along the horizon, their edges glowing with the first trace of dawn. They drift like dreams leaving the body, pale and weightless. Somewhere, the cry of a bird breaks the silence, not to disturb it but to complete it. Each sound now feels necessary, each movement part of the awakening. The earth turns slowly toward light again, and you can sense the subtle shift in temperature as the sun's warmth touches the upper slopes. The mountain glows faintly, still wrapped in shadow below but crowned in gold above, a perfect portrait of transition. In that moment of return, you begin to see the continuity between waking and sleeping, between the daily cycle and the eternal one. The way the mountain rests through night and rises into dawn is the same way you move through dreams and awareness. Sleep is not escape, it is participation in the slower rhythm of the universe. The same calm that shapes valleys and rivers works quietly within the body when it rests. Mountains teach that there is no true separation between rest and life, only different speeds of the same motion. Somewhere in the back of your mind, you imagine the Earth from space. A glowing sphere of blue and white drifting in darkness. The mountains appear as wrinkles of light along the continents. Veins of brightness where snow and sunlight meet. To an observer far away, they might look delicate, almost fragile, but you know their strength. You know they are the pillars of the planet's equilibrium, the anchors of its weather, the quiet keepers of its water and air. From this distance, even fragility becomes part of beauty. The world holds its balance not by being unbreakable, but by yielding perfectly to its own laws. As dawn expands, color returns, soft pinks, muted golds, the silver shimmer of frost melting into dew. The valleys fill with mist that catches the light and glows like glass. Every surface sparkles with a thin layer of water, each droplet a tiny lens reflecting the sky. You watch as the day begins again, the planet repeating itself with endless care. It is easy to forget that this perfection is the result of constant change. Every sunrise is new, every shadow slightly different, every stone subtly altered by temperature and time. The beauty lies not in permanence, but in renewal so gentle it feels eternal. Standing here, you understand that the mountain's calm is not distant from human life. It lives within you as the instinct to endure, the ability to find silence, the courage to begin again. The patience that moves continents also moves the heart. The same light that illuminates snow also shines within thought. You are not a visitor to this world, you are its continuation, its expression, its reflection. To sleep beneath the stars, to wake with the dawn, to breathe in rhythm with the wind, these are not acts of escape but acts of belonging. And so, as morning completes its arrival, you feel a slow peace settle within. The mountain has become both mirror and teacher, showing you what it means to exist in harmony with everything. Its silence remains, but now you can hear the music within it, a steady, low hum that fills the distance between every sound. It is the same hum that fills your chest when you breathe deeply. The same vibration that holds galaxies together. You close your eyes for a moment, not to shut the world out, but to feel how vast it is within you. The mountain does not end at its slopes. It continues inside the heart that listens. The mountain is quiet now, wrapped in the pale light of a new morning. A few clouds linger near its shoulders, drifting like slow breaths in cool air. The river glitters far below, winding through valleys that still hold traces of night. Everything seems awake yet unhurried. The first warmth of sunlight touches your skin, and the air carries the scent of melted snow and pine. You feel calm in a way that has nothing to do with thought. The stillness you once saw outside has settled within you. Each breath feels deeper here, filled with the memory of everything you have seen and felt along this journey. The mountain's patience, the rhythm of rivers, the silence between the stars, all of it remains inside you. Moving softly beneath awareness, you understand now that peace does not come from distance or escape. It comes from seeing the world as one continuous motion. The same forces that shape peaks and clouds also shape your life. Every joy, every loss, every change is simply the earth learning more about itself through you. If you close your eyes, you can feel how perfectly you fit into this pattern. The mountain beneath you is made of ancient fire, cooled and hardened through the ages. The warmth in your chest comes from the same energy that once glowed within those depths. Every atom in your body has belonged to countless other forms: water, mineral, star. You are not apart from this world but woven into it completely. The boundaries that separate you from stone and sky are illusions drawn by speed and scale. The truth is simpler. Everything breathes together. Light thickens as the sun climbs higher. Birds begin to stir, their wings cutting arcs through the golden air. A soft wind moves across the ridge, carrying the faint hum of life awakening. The sound is subtle but endless, water trickling from melting snow. Insects beginning their work, the distant call of unseen creatures. This gentle chorus reminds you that even in silence, there is always music. The earth never stops singing. Sometimes you must simply learn how to listen again. For centuries, mountains have guided travelers, philosophers, and dreamers toward this same realization. Those who came before you sought truth in temples, in science, in poetry, and yet they all found it in the same place, the stillness of nature. Standing at a summit, one cannot help but feel the balance between fragility and endurance. The air is thin enough to remind you how delicate life is. And yet the rock beneath your feet has existed for millions of years. That combination of vulnerability and strength is the essence of existence. The mountain does not choose one over the other. It simply holds them both. If you listen to your own heart, you will notice that it moves in the same rhythm. It expands and contracts like the tides, like the breathing of the earth, like the universe itself. The blood that travels through your body mirrors the rivers that descend from the snowfields. Your breath rises and falls like the wind over the peaks. Every system within you is a small version of the planet's great design. When you rest, the world rests through you. When you breathe, the atmosphere finds its voice in your lungs. This harmony has always been there, it waits only for attention. The stories we tell about mountains often speak of challenge, of struggle, of conquest. But in truth, there is nothing to conquer. The mountain never opposes those who climb it. It simply waits, offering itself without judgment. Whether you reach the top or turn back halfway, it remains the same, generous and unmoved. Perhaps the true ascent is not physical at all. Perhaps it is the journey toward understanding that nothing in the world resists you when you stop resisting it. The summit is not a point in space but a state of awareness, the moment you realize you already belong. From this height, you can see the slow curve of the horizon. The world stretches beyond imagination, its landscapes fading into haze and color. Rivers glint like threads of silver. Forests shift in patches of green, and clouds cast shadows that drift like thoughts across the land. The view is too vast to hold, yet it feels intimate, like a memory you have carried all your life. This is what perspective does. It returns you to humility, to wonder, to gratitude. Looking out at this endlessness, you understand that to be small is not to be insignificant. To be small is to be perfectly placed. You may wonder how long such peace can last. Life will call you back to movement, to cities, to noise, but the mountain has already given you something permanent. It has shown you how to find stillness anywhere, even in motion. You now know how to listen for the quiet rhythm beneath the surface of every moment, the pulse that connects heart to heartbeat, breath to wind, thought to silence. This is the memory you carry, the invisible summit you can return to no matter where you are. The morning brightens, shadows withdraw into the valleys, and sunlight spreads across the slopes. The day begins its slow expansion, each minute unfolding like a petal in the warmth. You sit for a while longer, simply watching the light move. There is no urgency here. Time feels generous, infinite. The mountain teaches that progress is not measured by distance but by depth, by how completely you are present to each instant. In that presence, everything becomes sacred. The shape of a rock, the curve of a leaf, the sound of air moving across skin. In a world that often forgets how to be still, The mountains remain as reminders. They show that endurance and beauty are not opposites but reflections of the same truth. They remind you that to rest is not to stop. It is to align yourself with the deeper motion that never ends. Each time you pause, you become more attuned to that rhythm. You begin to see that even silence grows. Even emptiness moves. Stillness is alive. So take one last breath of the mountain air. Feel how light it is. How clear. How ancient. Let it fill your lungs and move through you, carrying traces of snow, pine, and sunlight. As you exhale, imagine releasing every thought that no longer serves you. Let your mind open like the sky, vast and effortless. In that openness, peace takes root. You are no longer the traveler looking at the landscape. You are the landscape aware of itself. And somewhere within that awareness, a gentle realization begins to form that the journey was never about reaching the summit, but about learning to see the summit in everything. The smallest stone, the quietest breeze, the briefest moment of calm all contain the same completeness as the highest peak. The world does not hide its meaning, it reveals it in plain sight. Over and over, waiting for you to notice. You sit quietly as the wind shifts again, carrying warmth now instead of cold. The sound of distant water returns. Steady and soft, the mountain stands unchanged, yet everything feels new. In its silence, you hear your own voice, quiet, grounded, sure. It says that you are home. Not in a place but in a state of being. You have arrived, though you never truly left. The mountain was always within you, waiting to be remembered. The day now stands fully awakened. The light is strong but soft, filtered through thin air that carries no dust. The horizon shimmers faintly, the color between blue and gold. You remain seated, breathing slowly, watching how each moment unfolds without effort. It feels as if the mountain is breathing with you, each gust of wind matching your inhale and exhale. There is no need to move or decide. You are where you belong, in the exact balance of stillness and life. Around you, the sounds of the world begin to return. The murmur of the river grows louder as snow continues to melt. A bird sings once, then again, its song weaving through the air like thread. Far away, the wind touches the treetops, setting off a wave of soft motion that rolls through the valley. The day resumes its quiet work, shaping clouds, guiding light, whispering through stone. Yet even within all this movement, the peace remains. The calm is not fragile, it is steady, as though the mountain has lent you a small part of its timelessness. You think of everything the mountain has shown you, the creation of continents, the patience of erosion, the whisper of glaciers and rivers, the memory of stars. Each lesson carries the same message. There is no separation between the great and the small. The universe builds galaxies with the same care it gives to a single breath. What looks immense from one angle becomes simple from another. What feels distant becomes familiar. The same forces that move mountains also move your heart. You realize that rest is not the opposite of motion but its completion. Even the earth, forever turning, holds stillness at its core. The same heat that pushes magma upward keeps the planet's center steady. In every cycle there is a pause, a breath, a moment of reflection. Without it, movement would lose meaning. The mountain has taught you that balance is not achieved by avoiding change but by moving with grace through it. In every rise and fall, every inhale and exhale, life continues with quiet harmony. As you rise to your feet, the world expands around you. The valley opens like a page turned by light, and the peaks stretch upward into endless blue. You take a final look at the horizon, feeling gratitude without words. There is no need to name this feeling. It simply fills you like sunlight fills the morning. You know now that peace does not depend on where you stand. It is carried inside you. A steady center that remains even when the path changes. The mountain is not a destination but a mirror reflecting that truth. When you begin the descent, every step feels lighter. The stones underfoot are familiar. Yet they seem softer, as though they recognize your presence. The air thickens gently with each breath, carrying the scent of soil and grass. The sound of water grows clearer, and the sunlight flickers through branches. The world below is no longer something to reach but something to join. You are not leaving the mountain, you're carrying it with you. Its rhythm echoing quietly in your chest. Soon, you reach a small clearing where the river widens into a calm pool. The surface reflects the sky perfectly, a mirror of light and motion. You kneel beside it and touch the water. It is cold, clear, alive. As it slips through your fingers, it leaves behind a trace of chill that feels purifying. You watch as the ripples move outward, fading into stillness once more. In that fading motion lies the simplest truth of all: everything changes. Yet nothing is ever lost. Each movement becomes part of the greater stillness that holds the world together. You stay there for a while, letting your reflection settle in the water. The image trembles slightly with the breeze, then becomes still again. It does not matter if it disappears, you know that the essence remains. The person who arrived here searching for calm has found it, not as an answer but as a condition of being. Peace is not something to find but something to remember. The mountain has reminded you. The world is whole, and you are within it, not apart from it. As you prepare to leave, you look once more at the peaks rising against the sky. They seem unchanged, eternal, though you know they are always in motion. You smile at this paradox, the beauty of impermanence disguised as permanence. The wind moves through the grass. The sun warms your face. And you feel no need to hold on to anything. Everything you need is already here, already part of you. You begin walking back along the path. The sound of the river beside you. The light filtering through leaves. The air feels lighter now. The world quieter. Your thoughts slower. Each step becomes a meditation. Each heartbeat an echo of the earth's rhythm. When you finally close your eyes, the mountain remains, not as an image, but as a presence, vast and patient, breathing through you. Sleep comes easily now. The same peace that filled the sky fills your mind. The same warmth that touches the peaks touches your heart. The mountain continues its quiet work of creation. And you drift within that rhythm, carried by its calm. The world breathes, you breathe with it. There is no end, only continuation, the steady hum of existence, eternal and kind. And as you sink deeper into rest, the last sound you hear is the whisper of wind over stone. The soft music of the earth itself, singing you gently toward dreams.